All right. Well, hello, everyone. It's good to see all of you here. Welcome to our Fall 2025 Jammy Career Panel Grand Finale. Our topic for today is to doctorate or doctorate. And this is an opportunity for you all to discern whether or not a doctoral program is right for you. My name is Yas Hardaway, and I'm the Executive Director of Career Services at GSEP. And this is a partnership between our GSEP Career Services and alumni engagement teams. For some of you who are new to JAMI, you may be wondering, what does that mean? Well, JAMI is a Swahili term for community, and our JAMI Communities of Practice programs are really designed to provide up-to-date career information in the fields of education and psychology. In the fall, we have our JAMI Career Panel series, which are our moderated Q&A panels. And in the spring, we have our JAMI Career Chats, which are breakout room conversations. So let's take a look at our agenda so that you know what to expect for today. So in a moment, my colleague Stephanie will share our learning outcomes so that you can get a sense for what we hope that you will gain. She'll go over a few housekeeping items and then turn it over to our Director of Alumni Engagement to introduce our panelists. Following our panel Q&A, we'll have a brief moderated Q&A, and we'll take some audience questions. So feel free to put your questions in the chat, and we'll get to as many of those as we can given our time. Then we'll review some resources that we hope will be helpful for you. And panelists, feel free to also pop in resources in the chat. You're welcome to engage with our audience as well too. And then we will share a little bit about what's next. So without further ado, let me turn it over to Stephanie.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Here at Career Services, some of our learning outcomes that we hope that all graduates are able to accomplish is to gain clarity about the next step in your career planning, to gain confidence in your ability to successfully move toward your career objective, and lastly, connect to industry professionals from the Pepperdine community. And like Yas mentioned, we're just going to go over some basic housekeeping for today. Right now, currently, our session is being recorded and it will be posted to our GSEP YouTube playlist. So the good thing about today's session, if some of the panelists are not the track that you're interested in for your doctorate, we actually have in our YouTube playlist some of our past jammies that are of the same topic with different types of panelists. So you're more than welcome to do some research if you'd like and watch some of our older videos that have other panelists. There will be live transcription provided. If we can please ask you to rename for this purposes of having your first and last name. As you can see, some of us are already have our first name and last name, and what role we have for a student or prospect students, first name and last name will suffice. And then we do have our JAMI Communities of Practice Drive, which my colleague Frania put in the chat for your reference. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat and we'll get to them hopefully as soon as we can. Thank you so much. And I'm handing it over to Dr. Renee Dorn.
Thank you so much. I'm Dr. Renee Dorn. I'm GSEP's Director of Alumni Engagement, and I'm always so excited when we're able to spotlight, highlight, and acknowledge our alumni who have done such great things in our communities. And they've come back and they want to share their experience and expertise with all of us. So today, for To Doctorate or Doctorate, we have 6 alums who are going to be speaking to us today in a wonderful panel discussion. And so I'm going to get started by introducing each one of them so that you can hear a little bit about their background, and then we'll all join together for the panel discussion. All right, so our first alum is Dr. Lisa Behar. Welcome, Doctor.
Well, thank you, Dr. Dorn. It's so nice to be here. So I'm eager to hear what everyone else has to say as well. But my background is I graduated from Pepperdine in 2005 from the Master of Arts in Clinical Psychology with an emphasis in marriage and family therapy, and went on to have a private practice for close to 20 years, still in private practice, working with clients and individuals, couples and families, etc. And then I had an inspiration And that inspiration had me contemplate a new direction in my career. And I was very interested in just our global landscape, the political arenas and the things that are happening in our world today. And I was inspired by an information session when I went to Pepperdine West LA greeting session for the MACLP program. And then I heard about the PhD in global leadership and I learned more and I thought, this is something I'd really like to pursue. With that being said, I'm a graduate with a PhD in global leadership and change from the education department, and the degree is in philosophy. And with that, I am building an organizational psychology firm, which is very exciting with clients that I'm able to bridge the psychology and the education into the work that I do with not only individuals, but also now with organizations. And I'm also an adjunct professor in the psychology wing at Pepperdine as well for the MACLP and MAP programs. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Behar. You'll hear a little bit more from her when we get into our panel discussion. So thank you for being with us today. Next, we have another alum, Imani Coleman. So welcome, Imani.
Hi, thank you all for having me. I'm so glad to be back. So, I am a graduate from the MACLP online program. I graduated in 23, so just a few years out. After graduation, I went on to work in community mental health, and I quickly realized that was not my niche. And so I am now working with Eating Recovery Center in Pathlight, specializing with working with eating disorders and mood and anxiety disorders and focusing on the assessments and placements in care. And since I made that transition to that line of work, I decided to pursue a doctoral program at Loma Linda. And Loma Linda has a unique program, a doctorate in marriage and family therapy. I don't think there's any other ones that I'm aware of. So it's not a PhD, it's not a PsyD, it's a doctorate in marriage and family therapy. It's very different, but this is what I felt like was best for me. So now I am in full-time academic work and full-time clinical work.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us with your busy schedule. So we appreciate that so much. Next, we have Reed Farr. Welcome, Reed. Thank you for being with us.
Hi, Dr. Dorn. Thank you for having me, and it's nice to be here with you all. I graduated from the Master's in Clinical Psychology program, I think in 2018. So it's been some time since then, and I think I got licensed as a LMFT in 2020, kind of during the pandemic. And since then have gone on to really focus on anxiety disorders and OCD. That's sort of the path that I found myself on, which I wasn't really familiar with. Kind of previously, I was working with teens and kids, and I trained at Pepperdine, I trained at Sandy Siegel Youth Health Center. So I was really focused on working with young people, and I still have some young people I work with, but I've really gone into this exposure and response prevention treatment for OCD, which I find really inspiring. And mostly in private practice, I also work somewhere called the Camden Center, and I'm also affiliated with Psych, which is a men's mental health collective focused on treatment for young adults and men. Yeah, and doing OCD work there. So yeah, that's a little about me, and thank you again for having me.
No, this is wonderful. Thank you for joining us. And we'll hear a little bit more from Reed during our panel discussion. So thank you.
Sure.
Next, we have Kate Scott, another one of our alums, a double alum. Welcome, Kate, or Dr. Scott.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dorn. It is so great to be here. I am a double alum. I did the MS in Organizational Leadership program and most recently the PhD in Global Leadership and Change program. During my 5 years as a student here at Pepperdine, I was a graduate assistant at our very own career services here. And now post-grad, I'm in the Pepper postdoc program, co-teaching some courses in the doctoral program alongside Dr. Samahania on technology and education. And on the practitioner side, I've been consulting for a while. I've been around Microsoft, Amazon, Cisco, a lot of big tech, and right now in the kind of legal tech intersection industry.
That's wonderful. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Scott. And next we have coming up Dr. Melissa Wasserman. If she's not already joined us.
She'll be joining us shortly because she was coming from class. So we can move forward and then I'll signal you when she's back in.
Sounds great. All right. So last but not least, we have another alum from the MAP program, Carmen Wimsat. Welcome, Carmen.
Thank you for having me. So, yeah, I graduated from Pepperdine, such a blessing, in 1996. And I thought I was moving. I was looking at the clinical side. I moved over to the master side. Thought it would be good preparation for the doctorate. I found myself being a foster care therapist, which I absolutely loved, which you can do when you work under supervision. But I learned very quickly with the families that I was working with that education truly is what changes lives. And so I moved over and found an internship program called Project Match with the community college district, Los Angeles being one of the largest in the nation. And I teach psychology and statistics. I've been doing that for 25 years now. Emphasis in statistics. I teach more stats and research than anything else. And I work with students. I mean, I just have the amazing pleasure of working in this community college framework, seeing students transfer to university, seeing students publish actually. I'm really in the weeds with literature reviews and statistical methods of analysis and qualitative data and all the things. And I could not be happier to demonstrate that particular career choice if it is one of any of those in our audience today. So happy to be here to represent that branch.
Thank you so much. We're so glad that you're with us today. So at this time, we're going to start the panel discussion and bring all of our alums in so we can have a great talk about the master's programs, the doctoral programs, and what it takes to get one, to get into the programs, and two, once you get out, what can you do with these degrees? So I'm going to start with those with the master's degrees only. So for once you graduated with your master's, how did you move forward into the careers that you have? So I'll ask Reed and Imani and Carmen. So how did you move forward with those careers? And looking at those careers, at any point did did you decide, well, maybe I'll wait to get a doctorate? Is that something I may want to do in the future? So I'll just have any one of you can answer those questions.
I can share a little bit. So when graduated with my master's, I went straight into the weeds of gaining hours. I think that is something that we all get super excited for after graduation is to get the license. And so I went right into community mental health, a full service partnership program at that, so tier 3 individuals. And I just went really hard, really fast. And it was very easy, obviously, to get into the community mental health space. It is such a shortage of employees. It is a very rewarding work too, working in your community and giving back. And that was something that was on my heart. So that's where I went. And I did that up until this year. My focus was just working. I had a child. I have moved out of my parents' house. I began the road of like turning 26 and getting kicked off of all of your parents' stuff. And so for me, it was more important to get into the workspace than to continue my education. But after doing the clinical work and gaining some of my hours, I realized that I didn't want to just be a talk therapist. I wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted to get into teaching. I wanted to do more speaking engagements. I really wanted to diversify my portfolio, and I realized how much I missed learning. And that's why I ended up kind of coming back to this doctoral space and pursuing education. But I didn't want to give up my career. So when I got hired with Eating Recovery Center and I got to work with children with eating disorders, I realized I could fulfill my passion that my master's really sparked me to, which was giving back to my community, working with a vulnerable population, but also respecting the fact that I love to learn. I love the knowledge I gained at Pepperdine. And I really loved the community I built here at Pepperdine. And so I wanted to do that again, somewhere more local to me this time, but in a way that I could be more intentional about everything that I choose to do moving forward.
That's wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for that information. Reed, what about you? How did you transition from graduating with your master's into the career that you have?
Yeah, so I think similarly to Imani, I kind of hit the ground running. Like I was quite eager to get licensed, and I trained at a teen residential treatment center called Visions. And so I was working 5 days a week with kind of high acuity population. It was quite intense, quite team oriented, which I thought was really helpful early on, just having kind of a collaborative relationship with different therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, family therapy. I learned a lot really quickly, including that I didn't want to stay in residential treatment, but it was very good training. From there, I was interested and I actually met someone at that job who was doing OCD treatment for Visions where I was employed. And he connected me with someone who, her name is Michelle Massey. She runs a group practice called Anxiety Therapy LA. So I went and I got a job there. Once I was licensed, I got a job working for her, learned a lot, learned how to do exposure and response prevention, learned how to really help people who have OCD and anxiety disorders from a really behavioral lens. It's very active therapy. It's very kind of homework oriented, and I just really love that work. And so from there, I've been in my own practice. I'm affiliated with a couple places. I've also worked at UCLA. So yeah, there's been a lot of opportunity I've found, and there's a lot of people who need help. And so I really enjoy the work that I'm doing. I've considered the PsyD program. I considered it while I was in school. I was talking to some professors. I was so on the fence and a lot of decision making anxiety. But looking back, I'm sure that would be wonderful. And maybe one day, I'll go back to school. I love school. I loved being at Pepperdine, but for now, the master's degree has really enabled me to do what I want to do. So it's worked for
Yeah,
me.
that's
Yeah.
great. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. That's
Hmm.
wonderful. Carmen, now you've been in education for over 25 years with your master's. So tell us how you transitioned with your master's, because you have a master's in psychology and then you
Yes.
went into education. So tell us about that transition.
Yeah, it's absolutely perfect. One of the things that the community college district requires is that your degree matches what is called their minimum qualifications, where
Mhm.
they decide what department you can teach in. And a straight master's in psychology made me a really, really made the psychology department in the district available to me without question. I also have an undergrad degree in sociology from Berkeley, so I can teach according to my minimum qualifications in two different departments. I can teach in the sociology department, I can teach in the psychology department. The way I fell into that was, as I said before, was doing therapy. I was working for 5 Acres, a residential treatment center as well, but I was
Mhm.
on the foster care side. I had a caseload of 12. So I had to meet with my kids in any age, 0 to 18, but I was also required to meet with families. So I did conjoint therapies. Sometimes a child may have a parent that was deaf. I was in the weeds, similar to what Reed said. Your master's can afford you a particular level. Now, without my license, I can't do that independently, but I was
Mhm.
able to actually work with youth and families. It was really, truly, someone asked me to teach a parenting class, which you get to do also when you work for particular agencies. And I thought, what am I going to say? I do have a rich history in this area. I was a former foster youth myself under what's called relative care. So I was very eager to talk about different parenting things. But when I stood there in front of everyone, it was as if it was Cupid. And I thought, I'm never leaving this space. I'm going to teach forever. And I wanted to do higher ed. I didn't want to do K through 12. I looked at the community college and literally found my world. And being able to teach psychology to community college students who range from sometimes 15 to 85 in the same class.
Mhm.
And to do that in an encouraging, uplifting way and seeing the social mobility change, if you will, lives changed. My income is amazing. Even as a part-time professor, you can make anywhere from 70 to 80,000 a year, depending on your hustle. And if you are hired as a full-time faculty, I mean, honestly, the salary is amazing, plus lifetime benefits. And I get, I don't know, typically 15 to 17 weeks off a year paid. It's a great career. And I would say to anyone, if you're on the fence, yeah, your future you is an interesting person, right? Your
Right.
future you have no idea. But if you're in the stage of preparing for that future you, it's really going to come down to what you can do with your degree. And
Right.
so, to be honest, I don't need it. It's really funny. A lot of my doctorates in my department, I'm one of the only professors in my department who doesn't have a doctorate. You don't need a doctorate at the community college, even all the way to the president. My president does not have a doctorate. She only has a master's. The
Mm.
community college district is master's level. Everything is tailored to master's. We have a lot of doctorates and PhDs,
Mhm.
of course, and we welcome them with open arms. But often they'll say to me, "Gosh, Carmen, had I known I could do this life without having done that, I don't know. I may not have done it." So I just want you to know that whether it's a transition or whether it's a goal, not only, I present at conferences, I
Mhm.
do everything in higher ed at every level, at the community college level, and you can do that with your master's. And I love being able to share that here. I think about my doctorate degree, but I think about it really differently. I think I'm freer to think about it in a way of actually educating myself. I think Dr.
Right.
Behar, if I pronounced that accurately, sort of spoke about that. You have this freedom to get that doctorate with an interest in actually learning, and it feels more like a amazing apple to bite rather than the what I need for my career. And so it's a different goal, if you will, at that point.
Right.
Yeah,
So depending on your personal goals would determine whether you need to get the I'm sorry, with the master's, whether you need to get the doctorate.
definitely in
Yes.
academia, because I've taught at USC, I've taught at Cal State Dominguez, even at university level, you can only teach students who are beneath you in your degree. So obviously, I can't teach at doctorate level, but I can teach at master's level, because I
Hmm.
do adjunct teaching at law schools, wherever they'll have me, because I just enjoy it. So it's just a different agenda, and in some cases, a different salary for sure. But your experience and your career is doable at this level. So
Okay.
I'm here to rah-rah that.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
well, thank you. Thank you for that information. And then now for those with the doctorates. So we have Dr. Behar, Dr. Wasserman, and then Dr. Kate Scott. Welcome, Dr. Wasserman. I want to give you a quick opportunity to introduce yourself so everybody knows who you are. Dr. Melissa Wasserman, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me again each year.
Yes.
I love joining this panel. So I'm Dr. Melissa Wasserman. I'm an assistant professor here at Pepperdine's Graduate School of Education and Psychology in the Psychology Division. I have to count now. Where are we? What year is it? It's November of 2025. How did we get here? I don't know. I am in my 6th year as full-time faculty here. Before that, I was part-time. Before that, I was a doctoral student at Pepperdine's PsyD program. Before that, I was a master's student in Pepperdine's PsyD program. So I've been in this community for quite some time and love it here. Primarily, my research as a part of my academic appointment is around trauma, risk, and resilience, and more specifically, intergenerational trauma and historical trauma. I also work a lot with military and veteran communities. I co-direct the Union Rescue Mission Mental Health Clinic for trainees here at Pepperdine, and I also have a small private practice in the Valley as well, where I work with individuals primarily who've experienced trauma.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining us. So, Dr. Behar, Dr. Wasserman, Dr. Scott, what made you decide to get your doctorates? Because you were already working in the master's arena. So, why did you decide to get your doctorate? So, I'll start with Dr. Scott.
Yes, I think for me, it was definitely an unexpected journey. I think I always loved education. I started college at 14, so very non-traditional in that route. But for me, when I was going through the master's, actually, I was applying to law schools during the pandemic when it was starting. So I was kind of invested in going that route. I'm a big believer in really listening to your gut. And for me, I was feeling called to go a different route. So then I started looking into master's programs, landed obviously at Pepperdine. I think one of the best decisions I've made. It felt so right. And I think that ultimately just had such a big hand in me deciding to do a doctorate because the mentorship I really got from faculty, the kind of personal investment they had in making me become, reach my full potential that they saw in me was really a really big part of it, because they kept checking in like, so are you trying to go the academia route? Your writing's really good. What's next for you as I was going through it. And so I always thought, like, if you got the doctorate level, you wanted to teach. Didn't necessarily want to teach when I got into it, but I did a conference when I was a master's student. I was like, oh, I really like kind of dipping into this whole academic world. So by the time I was entering like my second year of the master's, I started, thinking about applying to doctoral programs, and it just kind of went from there. And ultimately, we'll talk a little bit about it later, but I landed on Pepperdine again, just worked for me. But for me, it was just really considering the opportunities that came with it. I love education. I knew I was never going to regret getting this degree. I knew unpack all sorts of other journeys that I had gone through in my master's. It would only get, unlock more discoveries about myself and what I wanted to do and enrich those opportunities. And I think we live in such a media driven world. Anything you can have that can kind of also help your branding really helps. And I think becoming, having that doctorate title really establishes leadership in your field and your expertise, and lends you that credibility to open up so many different doors. It was an easy decision for me from there.
Wonderful, wonderful. Dr. Behar, what about you? Because you sort of switched careers. So you were on the psychology side, and so you got your doctorate, though, on the education side. So talk to us about how you made that decision.
Yeah, and I actually bridged that from the cinema side. So I got my a degree in cinema from before the psychology. So yes, I was inspired. I had not intended to go back and get more education and go for a doctorate. That wasn't my intent. I was midlife career person. I wanted to pursue a master's and have the shingle on the door. I just wanted to make sure I was able to have a career that I owned it, I could drive it, and if I wanted to, participate in community or collaboration with other providers, that's great. But really what I wanted was the autonomy that having a master's degree would provide, and it did. I moved very quickly into building a clientele, being on insurance, was doing, and still am doing very well in the psychology and having clients. What came to pass was an intersection of quite a few things. I was like I said, I was in a information session at Pepperdine, greeting clients, students for the MACLP program. And I just so happened to run into some students who said, oh, we're doing the PhD program in global leadership. Oh, that's interesting. What's that about? And I was at that point in my life very interested in what was happening in our political arenas and the globe. And I'm fascinated by that, combined with being very much a part of my faith, which is Christianity, which was very inspiring from a spiritual perspective. So that really found a home within Pepperdine because of its, Christian values and mission statement. And I knew Pepperdine, and that's my Waves family. So it wasn't even a question of yes or no. I just thought, okay, if I were to do this, prayed on it, where would I go? And my intent, it was like Pepperdine of all places. Where would you question that? So I landed in Pepperdine and was accepted and pursued that and wanted to have an experience at Pepperdine that would cultivate ideas and give me new awarenesses and insights. And it certainly did. My dissertation was really a lot about things that I encountered throughout the program that made me not only grow as a clinician, but also as an educator and also as a consultant, and building that third career that gives me further autonomy as I move into this other part of my lifespan, because I've had a first career in movies and television, psychology, and now we're moving into this whole area of leadership consultation and systems. So the PhD has certainly served me well. It's made me a better student for my students. I learn from my students. So I always take a look at, being a kind of a one-down servant leadership approach. So they're consistently challenging me. I'm reflecting, and having the doctorate has certainly provided me the concrete feedback I can give to not only students, but also inspiration and putting it into action, a different kind of action plan than a clinical person in psychology, but certainly a fun and interesting one. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, yes, it does. Thank you. I want to quickly get Dr. Wasserman in. I do have a question regarding the students because you work with students regularly. So when they ask you, should I pursue a doctorate? What can I do with my master's? What do you tell them? What are the key things that students need to know, what they can do with their master's, and if they get a doctorate, what they can do with a doctorate?
Yeah, so I think that the main thing that I ask, and it's such a hard question, and it's one of my least favorite questions of all time, is where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? Which is again the worst question. But I think it's important to kind of consider, one, why are we in this field of psychology? And two, where do you anticipate, finding fulfillment and meaning, right? And so as you consider that, for folks who may want to teach and or conduct clinical work, there are numerous opportunities to do that with a master's degree. And that's great and fine. And for those who might envision careers maybe in neuropsychological assessment or maybe clinical research, which again, you can also still do with a master's. But if they are looking for experience to build their CV and learn more about, assessment, neuropsychological assessment, or clinical research or research, are they looking to expand their knowledge to in doing that? Now, I also always ask, you have to think, we live in Los Angeles, you have to think about the financial feasibility of it. So I always, I shoot from the hip and sharing that part with students too. So that should go into your pros and cons list as to whether or not that might be something that's feasible and to pursue. But I think it's really in thinking about, where do you see yourself and what are the resources that may help you get there? I saw a lot of questions in the chat about APA accreditation, so I just want to briefly attend to that as well. I think that, APA accreditation is there for a reason. And similarly, again, I hate the question, where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? There are certain jobs and or organizations that require APA accreditation in order to be there. And so things like VA medical centers, academic medical centers, if those are places that you might envision careers, I would encourage attending an APA accredited program. It's not a requirement. Obviously, there are non-accredited programs that exist, but there may be limitations to that down the road that may encourage you to look solely at APA accredited programs.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Wasserman, for all of that information. Thanks to everyone on the panel. At this time, I'm going to open it up and pass it on to Yaz because we had a lot of questions in the chat. And so at this time, we want to answer some of those questions. Dr. Wasserman answered one or two questions. So Yaz, I'll let you open it up to the other questions.
Great, thank you. And thank you again to the panelists for volunteering your time to share your wisdom and experiences with us. It makes such a difference. A question came up around funding, that how do you or are you able to pursue a doctorate if your program is not fully funded? Are there creative or alternative ways to be able to do that?
And that's open to any of the panelists to answer.
I can take a stab at this one. I think this was really top of mind for me, of course. When I was applying, I applied to a few different programs. So Pepperdine, it's not a funded program, you pay tuition. Other programs, it was in a funded format. There was a lot of pros and cons I really had to weigh out, and it was definitely one of the most important factors into me choosing a program. The other programs, if you get funded, it's usually a small stipend. You usually have to work for the university full time. You're either teaching or researching in addition to your full course load. Those programs are also out of state. So I would have had to relocate and uproot. And the funding was not that much. It's usually like 20 to 30,000 a year. So for me, versus what I was making, in the master's and I was working full time already at that point, the trade-off was in my opinion, not worth it, especially to sacrifice 3 to 5 years of career growth at that time. I wouldn't have had time to work a normal job while I was teaching full time. The trade-off, obviously, student debt, it's there, it's a thing. I think that's especially an evolving landscape right now, unfortunately, but it really just, I think it depends on what you value and what you have the luxury of valuing. If you need to support your family, I'm a caretaker, and you're already like a practitioner, you've already had that experience, you're in a career, a job, it is probably better to do something where you have the flexibility. That's also a huge part. Pepperdine, a lot of us in the program do work full time. So we had the flexibility to keep our jobs, to still do this program. And that was just kind of the trade-off we made. And I think it was a really solid one, honestly, because I think it kind of balances out in the end of not having to sacrifice that career growth for all those years and keeping your salary, which is probably inevitably going to be a lot higher than whatever stipend you would have been offered. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Scott. And I could see how if you are attending a part-time program or an evening program, it gives you the opportunity to be able to work. In some cases, the program might be full-time, and so that could be a bit of a challenge as well, too. So, yeah, Carmen, were you going to speak to that?
Yeah, I wanted to add to that because I think that Dr. Wasserman said that she gets that question when they ask, what do you tell them? Like when students ask, because I work for students, should I get a doctorate? And I say yes, 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 yes. And the reason I say that, having a master's, I explain to them how I love my life. I wouldn't change it a bit. I wouldn't change my degrees. But because I teach statistics and research, part of the reason that students are afraid of the doctorate and the PhD is because of the dissertation and the research. And so my whole job is dispelling that myth and showing them that they can gather data and what a focus group is. And I just love it so much and understanding that. The other thing is you're getting your master's along the way towards your doctorate, which is something a lot of students don't know. It is possible, especially in the UC systems, that the first 2 years of your doctorate, you will receive your certificate of mastery. And then the following 2 years is your dissertation. So depending on the program, you are in pursuit of that, which allows you to increase your income while now going into research. And I wanted to add to that APA question as well. I mentioned a minimum qualification. So whether you have your master's or your doctorate, if you go into academia, they will be looking for definitely WASC or one of those 6 accreditation systems across the country. But there's a great highlight to be APA. It says that you actually are going to bring knowledge into the classroom. So you don't really want to, your future self will definitely want that unless you are similar to myself. You have a full 20-something year career. And now I want to get a doctorate in, spirituality, right? At that point, it's not going to add anything to well, that's not true. No, it's true. If it's not accredited, then when I present it to human resources to say, hey, increase my salary based on now my doctorate, it has to fit their list. So even if it's not necessary for your career goals, that's one of the things you sort of don't want to play with. And I would say that. So I wanted to definitely address those two. I say get the doctorate because it's about keys. It's about doors and it's about keys. And if you're pursuing a graduate degree and you have that choice and it is feasible to you, go ahead. The master's can do everything you need, but don't shy away from it because it's research. So I have no problems encouraging, especially my students, my goodness, for them to see themselves in both arenas. I just want to add that you can do what you need, but if that's what you want, go for it. And definitely don't be afraid of the research that comes with it.
Thank you, Carmen. Thanks for sharing the additional points. A question that often comes up, and I've seen it in the chat too, is in terms of timing. Sometimes students will ask, should I get licensed first as a marriage and family therapist or professional clinical counselor and then pursue a doctorate? Or should I go straight through and pursue my doctorate and get licensed as a psychologist? Any thoughts regarding that particular question about timing?
I have some initial thoughts. So when I graduated, my goal was to go right into a doctorate program. And then I was humbled and I applied and I was denied. And I'm the kind of student that I apply to one school, and if it doesn't work out, then I'm under the belief that God didn't want me there, and that's where I'm not supposed to be there. So I took that as I'm going to just work and work toward my hours. And here we are, 2 years after graduation. I still haven't met my 3,000, but I've worked full time and I have done what was best for me, my family, and just overall my mental health. So I didn't get my license yet. I'm still working towards it. I'm in my doctoral program that has its own practicum built into it for systems work. So I'll be able to still acquire hours while in my doctoral program. And something I wish I would have told myself a few years ago was that you don't have to do it in 2 years. I was so under the impression like I need to bust out these hours and get my license in 2 years. And there's a reason why you have about six after you get your associate number to get the hours, because you just like you don't know what your future self is going to want. And so as I went to hit the ground running, I realized really quickly that I wanted to do my doctorate degree and I didn't want to wait to get my hours. So I'm doing it concurrently. But I also know that I have a wonderful support system. I have parents and a boyfriend and my daughter and all these people around me who keep me going. I have financial support from all of those people. I have a full-time job. So I have a really nice community that allows me to be able to have that balance and be able to make that decision for myself. And so I think it's not just what do you want to do, it's a what do you have, what community do you have around you that could help you navigate that decision if you want to just pursue your license or first and then get your doctorate. But for me and my family and my community, I can do both simultaneously.
Thank you, Amani. It's helpful to consider what is your life situation. That's part of the decision as well, too.
Yas, can
Um,
I throw in one
yeah.
quick question? Something Dr. Scott had mentioned when she had looked into doctoral programs that were out of state. So I wanted to ask all the panelists, when you were looking at different programs, were you considering online as opposed to in-person classes? And how did that help you make your decision on whether you took, got in a doctoral program or even a master's program? So I just wanted to, a quick answer from each of you.
Well, I did MACLP online at Pepperdine and I had a blast. I love online learning. I love the flexibility it provides. So I intentionally chose a doctoral program. While it's local for me, it's Loma Linda, so it's very close to my home in Southern California, but I chose a program that was also fully online to give me the flexibility. It's full time, but it's only in the evenings. And I don't have to worry about commuting because I also work remote. So I get to do everything in the comfort of my home. And that was what was really important to me choosing a doctoral program is if I work remote, I'm able to get my daughter off the bus, then I don't want to be in a position where now I have to commute to campus to do a program.
Thank you. Anyone else with that question? Choosing online as opposed to in person or even hybrid.
I'll speak to that. I prefer the in-person just to have the experience of direct contact, although the time that I got accepted it went fully online. So had to go into the online format, which I adapted and got very comfortable with and then actually preferred. But as an instructor, I think there's a lot of value to being in person and experiencing just the direct experience with your colleagues, your peers, and also the instruction and really tapping into that sense of community. But I teach online and I see the value of that too. So I guess it's just like life circumstances and what feels best with you. I might be in the latter stages of life, so I'm more comfortable with in person versus online, and that might have a significant part of that. So it really depends on who you are and what you're comfortable with, in my opinion.
Thank you. Reed or Dr. Scott?
Yeah, I did my master's in person, which I really, there wasn't an online option. So I guess it wasn't a choice, but I really enjoyed being able to, connect with colleagues and professors and in real life. But yeah, absolutely see the benefit to online or a hybrid option for flexibility.
If I may add, Dr. Dorn, similarly, it was not an option for me at the time that I was attending. However, for those who are interested in online or hybrid, my only recommendation would just be mindful of the practicum opportunities there. both in your area and or tele options, which may help guide the decision in terms of availability of practicum sites or clinical training opportunities. That's my only suggestion.
Thank you, Dr. Wasserman. And then Dr. Scott, and then Carmen.
Yeah, for me, I'm very tech native, so I was hoping to have some flexibility, especially while working. So for me, it worked out really well to do that. And when I did the master's, was supposed to have like a once or twice per term like in-person component, but I started it during COVID, so it was inevitably online. We got to meet for our last semester of classes, and I actually really love that. So when I was doing the PhD, I knew we had to do it's usually like 2 intensive weekends per term that you have to do. So it's like a Thursday through Sunday of like really long days of classes. So it ends up being 8 days like on campus. And honestly, that was the highlight of the program for sure. I love the flexibility of having it online because we all are working, but having that face-to-face like collaboration and connecting with your classmates and your professors was really invaluable, and having like those actual conversations that you can try to have on Zoom. I'm a big proponent of like you can connect on Zoom and virtually, but at some point it's just really valuable to have some of that face-to-face time to really get more out of it.
Thank you. And then Carmen, thank you.
So when I was at Pepperdine, there was no online, and I went once or twice a week. I loved it. I think the Pepperdine community, however, taking classes at Pepperdine, I don't know about everyone here, but I just felt, I don't know, it was one of the most amazing times in my life in terms of the quality of the education, but the warmth and just the invitation to come and learn. There was the sincerity that I fell in love with at Pepperdine. And I really, I mean, honestly, I know it's going to sound corny and cliche, but as I teach classes online, I think about my Pepperdine experience and really attempt to bring that to my online students. So I'll have students who really connected with me. Sometimes they show up at my office and say, I was in your online class. And, thank you for everything. And I think it really does depend on the intention to bring warmth to that particular environment. And since Pepperdine is good at doing that, I imagine that the online classes are meeting that standard as well. I can only imagine. As so many years later, I'm still trying to emulate that when I have the opportunity to work. So if you're thinking about that, I can't speak for other institutions, but I can speak for Pepperdine because I truly believe that would be a goal of the faculty there to bring that warmth and invitation and connectedness to the online format.
Thank you. Thank you to all of our panelists today. All of the information that you gave to everyone has been wonderful. And if you wanted to connect with our alums, you can always do that on LinkedIn, because they're always so welcome to answer any of your questions. So thank you to our panelists. Thank you. And I'm going to pass everything over to Gary to talk about enrollment services.
Thank you, Dr. Dorn. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being with us. I'm one of half a dozen enrollment officers at Pepperdine's Graduate School of Education and Psychology. And pertinent to this particular meeting that we're at, I personally cover as enrollment officer the Doctorate in Clinical Psychology. So if you have any interest in that program, I understand my information is going to be placed in the chat. Please feel welcome to reach out. My contact, Inva Lumi, is the enrollment officer for our PhD program in Global Leadership and Change, and her information will be placed in the chat as well. Please feel welcome to reach out to us, and we'll be glad to reach back and help. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Gary. Thanks for being here. And again, prospective students, if you're interested in a doctoral degree with Pepperdine, please follow up with Gary or Inva. Their information will be in the chat. So thank you. All right. I know we are getting close on time, so I just want to share a few resources. As you know, Reed, one of our speakers, is a private practice and is part of a community called OLIDA. So right now, I would like to invite both Reed, so I'm going to spotlight him, as well as Natalie, the community manager for OLIDA, to speak briefly about this resource. So let me pull up Natalie as well. All right, and I'll turn it over to both of you. Natalie?
Yeah, sure. I could give a like brief context about Alita, and then Reed, you can speak about your experience at Alita if you'd like. I'll try to make it quick, but hi everybody. I'm Natalie. I'm the community manager at Alita Therapy Suites. Excited to be here and just share a little bit about how Alita can be a great resource for those of you who eventually pursue the private practice journey, the transition from your graduate program to associate level and then to being a licensed clinician can be overwhelming, especially at that last step when you're ready to start a private practice and need to find the right office space to practice. There's kind of this financial pressure to lease an office space and all the other little things that come with that, like Wi-Fi and soundproofing, etc. So at Alita, we've created something that makes that whole process a little bit easier. So we're a network of flexible and fully furnished therapy offices across Los Angeles that you can rent by the hour or by the day. So there's no leases, no overhead, and no long-term commitment to a lease. We have 7 locations across LA, so you can really practice anywhere from Santa Monica to Studio City. And our goal ultimately is to make running a private practice easy, accessible, and convenient for our members. That means providing a physical space to practice out of, but we also try to foster a sense of community at Alita as well. So we provide other resources that can help therapists grow their careers outside of their day-to-day practice. So we host networking events, consultation groups, little gatherings like holiday parties and free professional headshots, speaker events with like accountants who can help you figure out taxes as a therapist, etc. So we're more than just an office space, but also we can serve as a great launch pad for your private practice career. And then just quickly where this might fit in for you all as current students and eventually graduates of the GSEP programs. Once you're registered at the associate level and working under a licensed supervisor, you can use Alita as an offsite location as long as your supervisor approves it. But then you can also bookmark all of this and come back to Alita once you're fully licensed, as it's really the perfect space to begin your private practice journey, especially as you're kind of building your caseload. And you can have an office space to practice out of without that financial burden of traditional office leasing. I can pass it off to Reed real quick. I know I kind of spoke for a little bit longer than I wanted to, but yeah.
Thanks, Natalie. Yeah, I'm in a hybrid private practice. So I have a home office where I'm at now, and it's really nice having a flexible office like Alita where I can go in, see 1 or 2 or more clients, and get back to my office. So I'm usually like on any given work day. Yeah, the offices are really nice. They're clean. The internet works. Everyone is nice. There's a sense of community. So it's really worked for me. And I was at a previous office before that was not as nice. So yeah, I'm a big proponent of it. And I think for folks who are getting into private practice, or even if you're an associate, starting your private practice under someone, if you need to see people in person, it's such a great option. The fact that it's all over the city really just kind of makes it convenient if you're local. So yeah.
Thank you, Reed. And one other quick thing for you all completing your master's or doctorate, when you're ready to start using an office space and you want to come to Alita, we're offering $150 in booking credits. So that kind of covers your first like several sessions at Alita, just as a way of supporting you all as you enter the next chapter of your careers. And then I believe that Yaz will send over contact information and the Alita website if you want to learn more.
Yes, just you put that in the chat. And then if you don't mind, Natalie, if you want to take a look at a question that came up in the chat, that would be great too. But thank you both for speaking to this. Right?
Yeah, thank you guys.
All right. So we are almost at time to finish up in the next couple minutes. I'm going to turn it over to Usman to highlight some of our resources that he's found.
Hi everyone, Usman. As part of our vision today for promoting access for our students and alumni, including all of you, we have some resources we want to highlight for professional development and networking opportunities like the PhD project and the Association of Pan-African Doctoral Scholars. And we have our financial aid and scholarships page if you're looking to apply to one of our master's or doctoral programs. And then we also have some articles on fully funded PhD programs and education as well, and then advice on applying to PhD programs, and also another article from inside higher ed and advocating for being our authentic selves. Thank you, and I'll pass it over to Nadine.
Thanks, Usman. Okay, so we really value and appreciate your feedback. So if you scan the QR code on the screen, or there will also be a link in the chat, we would really appreciate just a couple minutes of your time to fill out a really brief survey. And if you do, you are entered into an opportunity drawing for an Amazon gift card. So please go ahead and do that if you can. And on the next slide, just looking forward to next term. So next term, we will come back with our Jammy series, but it will be a career chat format. So instead of a webinar, you'll have breakout rooms and opportunities to speak with our guests, our speakers. So please look forward to that. We don't have a lineup just yet on our topics, but we will be working on that and sending that out soon in the new year. So we hope to see you in the spring as well.
And thank you
Mindy.
here, whether you are prospective students, current students, or thinking about going into a doctorate program, we really encourage you to just stay connected. We are kind of everywhere, but you definitely don't have to follow us everywhere, but pick one platform that you use a lot, whether that's Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. And also, if you're a current student or in a professional field, we really encourage LinkedIn as well, not only as your professional experience, but kind of growing the network along with other attendees that have attended, with your classmates, or even some of our speakers, if you find that helpful. And thank you all so much for staying till the very end. We always like to end with a fun group photo. So I will count down from, 3. But if you can just select your favorite emoji, just so we can have a very colorful and animated photos together, that will be fun. So get ready to pick your favorite emojis. And 3, 2, 1. Take a thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Mindy. We look forward to seeing you in the spring. Thanks so much for being here. And we'll follow up with the recording and resources that were shared today. Thanks again.